I am delighted to be here. My name is Peter Hawkins. I'm co-chair of the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Commerce, and this event for the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Commerce is super, super important. And everybody who's here, I'm glad you're here. Tell your friends, be sure and watch the recording afterwards, because you've got some of the smartest people in the room. And notice I didn't say the smartest women in the room, the smartest people in the room. Okay? They don't get enough of a showcase, and I'm delighted to do it here. I at PDAC, we have all kinds of mining events and networking events and things that we really like to showcase. But I will tell you, it is conversations that you're about to see here that really matter. And I'm delighted that our mining champion, Jamili Cruz, is also our diversity, equity, and inclusion champion, and our ESG champion is the one who has organized all this stuff. So I have a few things I'm going to say before I do couple of quick introductions. We always do a land acknowledgement. I'm in Mississauga, Ontario, so I love to say that I would like to acknowledge the land that I am on. I'm going to read it. Is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the territory of the Anishinaabeg, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Ojibwe Chippewa peoples, home to the Métis and most recently the territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on this land. The other thing that I always love to read is we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion mantra created by Dr. Laura Methot and Jamili. Together, we stand as leaders embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion. We recognize that DEI is not just the right thing to do, but essential for our organization's success. We lead the charge, understanding that diversity and inclusion practices must permeate all aspects of our business. It is not a standalone initiative, nor confined to HR policies alone. By weaving DEI into the fabric of our organization, we cultivate an environment where every individual thrives, innovation flourishes, and collective potential is realized. With unwavering commitment, we engage with our employees to foster real and sustainable change. Let us forge ahead, united in our mission to create a diverse and inclusive future that transcends boundaries and elevates us all. You would think, with all the announcements you're getting these days coming out of Donald Trump's second administration, that ESG and DEI are dead. And in fact, it is true that his administration is really changing corporate responsibility globally. Meta, Amazon, McDonald's, Walmart have all announced plans to reduce their DEI initiatives, and Trump has signed plenty of those executive orders that vastly affect the green agenda. However, ESG Today magazine said that 85% of companies said they will stick with climate reporting plans even if regulations change because executives see significant strategic value in sustainability data. Finally, ahead of the UN climate summit, President Lula's administration has, of course, approved joining the OPEC Plus, and from a 2023 invitation, arguing that new oil revenues could finance a transition to green energy. The mining industry has taken such a great initiative long before DEI was fashionable, and now that it's out of fashion, they're still doing it. And we are lucky to have these wonderful leaders on this panel today having a very meaningful conversation. So we have Jamili Cruz, Patricia Procopio, Camilla Lott, and Angelina Mehta. These four women are going to be talking about something that is very important because it's only one Earth, okay? And you got to remember that the women are the leaders of tomorrow. So, Jamili, I'm going to hand it over to you. By all means, in the chat, please check the biographies of each of these very important leaders. Enough of me. Over to you, Jamili.
Thank you so much, Peter, and thanks again for the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Canada for hosting and holding these spaces where we can have these important conversations. We do believe that it's there and it's alive, and we need to keep pushing through. I feel like every single one of the people in this room today, and I believe most of the people who are participating and listening to us this afternoon, understands the need and the importance of the theme. So thank you for joining us today. We have people joining. I got the list of registration from Australia, from Brazil, from Canada, from all over the world. So we appreciate you, and we hope you're leading as well these conversations in your workplaces, in your lives. Again, the Chamber tends to focus on the relationship between Brazil and Canada, and we have companies here today representative of these trade agreements and the conversations we're having among these countries. And mining for all of us is a big part of our lives, right? Some of us here with 30 plus years in mining, 20 plus, and we've been not only working towards developing these important projects that fulfill the needs for our lives, right? We tend to say what's not grown into the land, it's mined. So we have a lot of challenge ahead of us with energy transition, with the world as is, with the new relationships or the new ways of looking at the relationships we have with our communities. And there's new ways of thinking about this, new ways of reestablishing. There's innovative ways of combining the knowledge that we have today, the realities of what's happening in the world. And that's why we decided to set up this panel here and this conversation. We as the mining sector, we have set strategic priorities when it comes to the improvements of the environmental, social, and governance, so the ESG issues that we talk about. And it's fair to say, I think that we've made great advancement on the past few years. I think there is huge commitment. Sometimes these commitments don't come from easy moments. They usually come from very hard moments that the industry went through and figure out new ways of doing things. And I think we're trying to do positive things based on some challenges that we have. So I'm very excited to be here with Patricia, Angelina, and Camila. We all have crossed paths, worked sometimes very deeply together in different projects, and they're all part of my lives. And I think it's going to be a great conversation. So thank you for making the time. Thanks for the organizations who enable this to happen. So let's get started. So talking about this challenge, focus with the ESG front and everything that we're facing today. Some of those Peter already highlighted at the opening. And some of the critical commitments that we're making and the practices and implementations of this. How are we looking at the ESG mining today, 2025? And how we're looking forward in terms of the changes and how we need to really commit towards future advancements. And maybe I'll start with you, Camila, if you can share kind of your views in this topic for us.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Jamil. Good afternoon and good morning. I don't know if there's people from abroad. Yeah, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with those great people. And I love that, Peter, where you say that we are very important persons and not only women. Yeah, women, it's just a small detail. Yeah, here in mining. Um, well, I think I'm going to approach this issue basic on energy transition, okay, looking at our crucial role, the crucial role of mining and this subject, which is so important for humanity, just like D&I are so important because it is about respect. And respect is the basics of humanity. And if we believe in humanity, we believe that D&I is here to stay. Energy transition must be here to stay, right? We have to have a world that is appropriate for us to live in. So, and mining has this very essential role in energy transition because we understand that we contribute for the renewable energy technologies such as batteries, solar panels, wind turbines as a material for that. Besides that, we understand that we play a special role in decarbonization. And especially here, we are like iron ore producers here in Valley, and we will work very close to our clients, the steel sector, which is very hard to abate. Okay. Um, we understand that we do have a capacity to grow our supply of high grade and agglomerate products and critical materials as well, copper and nickel, and that are very necessary to enable these technologies and to support our customers on their energy transition challenges. They are on our scope uh, 1, 2, and 3. Our scope 3 is responsible for 98% of our GHG emissions. So this is where we have to focus on our clients besides everything else. We are going through a profound transformation driven by the need of this responsible sourcing of critical materials, climate action, and strong social commitments, because we have to take care of the just transition, right? We have set ambitious targets here in Valley, okay? There's some of them, like we have established that we want to source 100% of renewable electricity here in Brazil by 2025, and we have already reached this target, and globally by 2030. We also are aiming to achieve net zero scope 1 and 2 by 2050. And also considering our clients, as I mentioned, we want to achieve a 15% reduction in our net scope 3 emission by 2035 in relation to our 2018 levels, okay? And we want to improve the global energy efficient indicator by 5% by 2030. Trying to bring here just an example of what we are doing to make it concrete. It's not just about an ambition, but we are doing concrete things. We have developed our iron ore briquettes. It's an innovative product that we developed over 20 years of R&D, and now we are able to provide this technology that can reduce the greenhouse gas emissions in our operations and also in the steel productions up to 10%. So we have already settled many agreements on what we call mega hubs, and we have already a briquette plant working in Vitória, in Espírito Santo and Tubarão. I think that I have reached my 2 minutes here, and just want to finish saying that it is our role to radically engage and decarbonize and ensure a just transition along the value chain. So this is what we are committed with. Thank you.
Thank you, Camila. And so interesting to hear about these commitments. It's one of the things we always discuss around Brazil, right? The availability of renewable energy and the commitment to be 100% kind of on this green grid. It's quite impressive, and it's what we want to see of the world. Again, depending on the side of the mining business we are, like for Angelina and I, for example, are in the aluminum business. The characteristics are a bit different, and the challenge to commit to that 100% and get to the emissions level that you are committing, it's different. So it's always interesting to look at mining and the complexity of every single one of the units that we have and how to get to that ore. But thank you so much for sharing those commitments in a clear example. Maybe I'll go to you next, Angelina, and share a little bit about Rio Tinto and your views on this.
Perfect. But boa tarde. I thought I would pull out my Portuguese, knowing that I'm the only non-Brazilian on this panel. That's where it stops, unfortunately. I'm really happy to be here, and I know I should have changed my background to Rio Tinto before we started, but I was running short on time. So I was thinking about the question as it was framed in terms of the pressure against ESG today, and Peter mentioned a number of items. You did too, Camila, but I'd add to that the very real challenges we're facing with climate change. With our businesses in Brazil, we've had real financial impacts from some of those changes that are happening. And so we need to really look at this, not just as a right thing to do, but as how do we mitigate consequences to our business. When it comes to Rio Tinto and our commitments, it's been a journey for us. We're very clearly striving for impeccable ESG credentials, and that's not just in Brazil, but all over the world. This is the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Commerce, so I'm happily sitting in Montreal in Canada. I'm a little bit cold, but I'm still, really keen to provide some perspectives on my experience in Brazil from where I sit as Rio Tinto. So when I think about how do we achieve and our responsibility, as you said, Camila, in pushing these initiatives forward, I really think of it from a partnership perspective. I know that most of what we do in Brazil at this point, outside of some exploration work, is through joint ventures, and so I acknowledge the partnerships that we have with our fellow stakeholders that sit around the table with us. And I think as Rio Tinto, it's really important for us, regardless of our percentage stake in our joint ventures, is to drive the bar higher, or to at least our standards that we would operate anywhere in the world. And I think, at least in the last 4 years that I've been involved with the joint ventures, we've had such collaboration with our partners to be able to do that. So I think that's a positive, and that's an openness that I've seen. The other thing I wanted to talk about was partnerships with our local stakeholders as well. And so I say our, but I mean the companies that we work through in Brazil. And so very important for us to live our values, which are care, courage, and curiosity. So the more we know, the more we listen about our partners and what their needs are, and the communities around us, the more we'll be able to deliver against that. So also very conscious of, what we talked about in terms of the whole supply chain and the scrutiny there. We're aware that we need to be diligent at every level of the mining production, right from the bauxite that we mine in Brazil to the aluminum that we produce in other countries around the world. So that scrutiny is important for all levels. And when I talk about partnering with the communities, it makes me think about human rights. It makes me think about biodiversity. It makes me think about how we handle water, what we're emitting in the air. And so this is such a broad topic, and I know I'm running out of time in my 2 minutes, but I just wanted to say that we are committed. It is a journey. We're learning from all the years that we have spent in Brazil. But again, we're not going to be able to do this alone. So as an industry, for me, it's really about the relationships we build and that we sustain in order to achieve our targets.
Thank you, Angelina. And of course, we could spend all the time here just maybe going around the room and talking about the relationships with communities and the transitions that we have had into the mindsets that we take into this community relationship and how we're moving towards different types of agreements, different types of governance, and how this transition is happening as we go, right? Like, I think there's so many learnings from past experiences, but there's also a renewed mindset to how we look into this future relationship. So thanks for sharing that, and maybe we'll set one just for communities in the future. And also I'm so happy to see like you and Camila in roles like you have today with heading like communities, environmental, sustainability as a whole for these corporations, because I think the eyes and the experiences that you two are bringing to these roles are so important for us to really look into the future with different eyes, right? And then last but not least, my friend Patricia. Patricia, happy to hear from you on this take. Like, you have this role and always this vision of innovation and technology in mining combined with your leadership of the Women in Mining Brazil. So talk to us about your view of ESG today and the future. You're on mute.
Okay. Hi, Jamil, and hi, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. It's a pleasure to be here in BCC that helped us a lot in the beginning of our movement, Women in Mining. Also, Angelina, that was here in Canada, Camila representing Vale, that's so important in the beginning, and Jamil, other directors, one of the founders of Women in Mining. It's interesting to talk about to reinforce the importance of D&I. When I remember the beginning, 6 years ago, in the beginning of the beginning, 5 years ago, when we are consolidating the movement and we have to discuss how it's so important to change the idea that we have the value proposition of women in mining, that to give new perspective for the mining sector. And we nowadays, after some discussions in some countries, that we have to discuss again how important it is to D&I and how to do the mining sector doing with inclusion and diversity. Okay, I think it's we have a very good opportunity nowadays when we are discussing the critical minerals and the transition energy, that we are restarting a lot of projects in different areas that we can start again. And that's the moment that we can prove that we can, okay, Camila reinforced that we are essential for the world, we are the passport of the modern life, but we can do different, we can be more sustainable, more safety, more innovative, and more responsible. And we can prove this now. I think we have this opportunity to do this. We have a lot of technologies. We have a lot of possibilities to be more adaptive, to be more, to have more inclusive using these technologies. That, I think that's the point. How to do this together and how to put people together. When we talk about D&I, we are talking about people. People. If I said gender, if I have race, if I have generation, if I said disability, we are talking about people. People that will be construct the world. I'm very happy, and we have the possibility to talk more after.
Thank you, Patricia. Well, talking about 2025, we can't ignore the fact that we have COP30 in Brazil. I feel like based on the roles that we play with our organizations and our roles in society, we're probably very involved in conversations around this theme. The theme for COP30 in Belém in November this year, it's expected to be the economy for transition. Focus on how to transition to a low carbon economy while addressing the needs of developing countries, particularly highlighting the importance of the Amazon. We all have operations or joint ventures in the Amazon, and Patricia, I know, has been involved with a lot of the mining planning and discussions in some of these mines. And you can have one day without discussing climate regulation, biodiversity conservation, a lot of emphasis on the climate financing, the adaptation of these measures, inclusive climate, the impact to the communities. So I really want to hear from each one of you, what are some of the views that you see that the mining industry is taking towards climate change and the impact that hosting COP30 is having on this conversation, the roles of your organization in mining in the sector and on the environmental goals as a whole. So maybe I'll start with you, Patricia, this time around. On mute again.
I think we have again the opportunity to show how is Brazil, how is the mining sector in Brazil. We are going to the north, we are going to Pará, we are going to a territory that we have a lot of mining. And then I think that's how important to discuss these themes and to convince our sectors, our stakeholders to have together with our government to show how we can do this. Also, it's very important to listening what the people are talking about, or they have the expectation to see and to have to change these ideas. It's last year, in the end of the last year, we will have the Amazon conference. It was very interesting because we are really listening to people, really listening what we have to do together. Then that's the point. The opportunity to be in Brazil with different players and different people, and listening and discussing how to do. In Pará, that's a place very important for us in the mining sector.
Thank you. And yeah, for those who are not aware, IBRAM, together with Vale and other organizations, they organized this conference of the Amazon over the past 2 years. So I was there for the first time around, and it was so interesting to have this setup where mining was there to listen and to really collaborate in a conversation with communities, head of government, civil society as a whole. So I'm so glad to see this movement towards kind of this open dialogue and an actual dialogue, right? So we can listen and really adjust our expectations, adjust our practices to something that is conducive of the business that we want to see in the future. So maybe I'll transition to you, Camila, to hear a little bit of your expectations and your views on COP30. And just for everybody who is listening to us live, if you have questions, if you want to contribute to this conversation, please use the Q&A box. Khalil, who is helping us here today, he'll pass your messages and your questions to us. So thank you, Camila.
Thank you, Jamil. I can say that since the end of last year and all this year around till today, I speak about COP30 every day. So that's how important it is to us. I think COP30 represents a unique opportunity to highlight the importance of mining to the decarbonizing economy. few has been said about it. I think one of the main impacts of COP30 is strengthening public policies, because promoting action towards ambitious emissions reduction targets, that what will move the world to really work hard to decarbonize. Another important outcome that we expect is the attraction of green investments, right? We understand that Brazil can attract new investments, foster technological innovation, create economic opportunities by positioning the country as a leader in the fight against climate change. We have the chance this year that Brazil can demonstrate its commitment to decarbonization and the inclusion of vulnerable communities, right, in the climate agenda, not leaving anyone behind. And this is particularly relevant for mining, a sector that we all know that needs to adapt to growing environmental and social demands. So this all has to come together. Um, and since COP30 is going to be held in Amazon, as you mentioned, we have began already the preparation for that, working in Amazon a lot. It is a historic opportunity to showcase Brazil's contributions to the agenda, right? And its leadership, including being one of the countries that have revised its NDCs, right? We always have been like a champion on that, and that needs to be highlighted. Uh, and we are aligned with this vision, and it's no different. Our CEO has mentioned a few weeks ago that decarbonization is our business, and it really is right now. This is our business. The mining inclusion in COP agenda has been quite timid so far, as COP as many previous years. We understand that mining has not been there as it should as a sector. Let's be honest, we are not as articulated as others, and we should be, to present ourselves as a enabler for decarbonization. I think that we have to work together on that. We have common interests on that. Um, but we have to truly ensure that sustainable mining practices are part of the discussion, right? How we do mining, it is important, and we have to acknowledge our legacy issues and also the innovative advances forward. Okay. We really want to encourage the sector to position itself as part of the solution. This is how we are going to see Vale there, and we will be more than willing to have the whole mining sector together on that journey. And well, this is what I will end up asking for, this collaboration regarding COP30, having honest conversations about the risks and opportunities of mining, to reach out, please, to me to discuss further, as we don't have many time. You just leave me 2 or 3 minutes, Jamil. But this is just the beginning for lots of conversations towards COP30 and decarbonization.
100%. I feel like this is probably just a kickoff for a lot more collaboration. One thing I have to say about your team, right? I've worked together with Andrea and Flavia and other people from your group before, and I one beautiful thing I would say about mining is that on where it counts, we're very collaborative. So when we had challenges around some governance issues or even understanding some practice on biodiversity, like every time that the question is how to do better in an area that really impacts all of us, it was always easy to reach out, and it was always easy to receive a lot of experience and a lot of feedback and knowledge from the different groups. So I'll extend the thank you from the Women in Mining Brazil, from Rio Tinto. I feel like that collaboration is always there. And I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only one talking about coffee every day. It's kind of taking over. So, but I see the same way as you. It sounds and it feels like a great opportunity to showcase the abilities that we have in terms of green focus in Brazil and different ways of doing things. So I'm very glad to hear from you that the experience has been very similar towards the opportunities and plot forward. Thank you. So Angelina, maybe we'll hear from you as well on your perspective on this.
Sure, just a couple of thoughts when I think about COP30. So that means to me, or it actually means that we've had 29 other conversations on this topic in other places around the world. And so it's a bit of a similarity to how I'm feeling about our conversation on women in mining next. It's a segue, right? Because I've been in mining for 30 years, and sometimes I feel like I'm having the same conversation every year. That being said, I'm hopeful because I think the current context catalyzes or gives us a sense of urgency on what we really need to achieve, right? We're right now at an intersection of many changes, both geopolitical, climate, et cetera. And we are the decision makers, and this is an opportunity to come together with our partners and actually make real change. When I think about the conversations that should be happening at COP through the mining industry and through our participation in it, I think about how we can talk about transparency. I think about how we can really talk about our targets that we're setting, the access to clean energy, not just in Brazil, but everywhere where we operate, and then our own responsibility in generating some of that in some cases where it makes sense to do that. I think about well-being, so that's health and safety, and that is physical and mental. And so those are challenges that we need to work on together and that we should be showcasing as part of the general health of what's happening around the world and in our industry. And frankly, we need to also talk about our dialogue with our stakeholders. As I mentioned earlier, when I think about partnerships, it's not just with our fellow miners or with the countries or jurisdictions that we're in, but with civil society as well, to understand what is it that we can really work harder on to change. Because if this is our 30th round of having this conversation, what should we be doing differently this time than we did the first 29 times? And, I had a few other things I wanted to say, but I think we're running out of time and we need to segue into the second piece of that.
You all feel very pressure about time without me making any pressure around time.
We're
so
well
relax.
trained.
See, yeah, we have lots of discipline here.
It's very good. But I think that's a perfect segue, Angelina. When you talk about well-being and the conditions of mine, it makes me think about the question that we put forward around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I definitely wanted to hear a little bit from each one of you in terms of how do you see the progress that we've made to date and the challenge moving forward with the conversations we're having. I feel like when I think about diversity, equity, and inclusion in mining, and I think about women in mining, it always comes back to the point of thinking and saying that when you make mining better for women or any sector better for women, you make it better for everybody else. So I think all this practice around equity, when you focus on one group, independent of that, which group are we talking about here? Because we know diversity composes, it's a composition of our society. So it's so much more than gender. But being a part of the women in mining for so long, I feel like we definitely made progress, right? And I have a good friend, Belinda, who wrote a book, and one of the statements she made was, it's okay to recognize that it's better, but it's still bad. So I think there's a lot of work for us to still do, and it's beautiful to see this panel with professionals leading different fronts of the organization, but again, we have in common that in this panel, we're women, and we did bring the topic because we're celebrating almost 6 years of women in mining Brazil. And a lot of the women who are here today participate on the foundation of this group and this movement, and understanding what it takes for us to construct environments that are inclusive, that are acceptance of the differences between people, and finding the commonalities and the ability to push forward, right? So maybe I will start with you, Patricia, on just reflection of the 5 years of Women in Mining Brazil, the fact that we did launch with an action plan, expecting a level of commitment from the mining industry, of mining leadership towards strategies and actions that we believe to be the right way of progressing with the changes. How are you seeing it today? What has happened this 5 years? And please don't feel constrained for the 3 minutes. I feel like we really need to hear from you on this one. And like, how are you feeling moving forward?
It's interesting, Jamil, because 5, 6 years, a lot of work. I have significant numbers. Okay, we started since in the beginning, the first research census that we did, we have 9% of women and the workforce. In our last report, we observed that we have almost 23. It's a progress. We know that we have more women. We know that we have more D&I efforts but it's interesting because the numbers is changing because we have other numbers on these situations. And for example, okay, the companies has this commitment with the D&I, but almost at the same time not have so much budgets to invest in social programs with women, don't have other involvement with attract new women for the mine sector. Then we have some challenges that we need to talk about and to put this on the point. And in our last report, we call how to go beyond the words, because we are talking about, yes, this agenda, it's on the table. We are talking a lot about this, but it's really a progress and what we can do. Another thing that we feel so much that nowadays that we are more mature, and nowadays it's possible to say that Women in Mine, for example, is not a movement for women, it's a movement for people. Okay, in the beginning, we are trying to understand what's happening in the world, how it will be our career in the past, what happened with us, and we need to listening a lot of people, a lot of companies. We need to talk a lot other movements and other subgroups to understand what's happening. And nowadays, for example, in Brazil, we are facing new moments because we have a lot of men working together, asking us to discuss about it and try us to translate this message that it's possible to say that we are changing the persona that we are talking with, okay? Because that's the point. We are discussing about how to be more inclusive, how to be more on this way, how to be more responsible, and that's the problem that everybody has. Then that's the main thing that we are nowadays thinking about. That's it. For example, we have now more than 60 companies with us representing all the supply chain of the mining sector. We have many directors that are calling us to talk about. We are have an experience to talk with CEOs. Last month, someone in Vale called me to talk only the man for his team. That's very interesting. That's the point. I think that's the point to change and to improve the next years and how we really be together and make this change that we need. And let expect the another reports, because we increasing numbers, but we have a lot of turnover. The women are moving away. We don't retain these women. We have a representative women so different. We have 0% of Negroes and leadership. And then I think we have a lot of things to do, and we have to do now together for these changes that we want.
Thanks, Patricia. Yeah, no, it's interesting to see the number growing, but the problems continuing to be similar. And I think I would love to bring you, Angelina, to talk about a little bit of around the Everyday Respect report from Rio Tinto. I think the world kind of talked about this report when it was launched the first time around, and it was called Everyday Respect, and it was like this revision or view and expose on the culture of a company, a mining company. And when I remember being asked to comment, I wasn't with Rio Tinto yet, and of course, as part of In Brazil, we got a lot of requests to comment on the report and talk about kind of our views. And I kept reacting to people saying we're shocked. And I think for all of us who've been 20 plus years in mining, there was no shock reading a report like that. Rio Tinto just published kind of a new and revised version of the report last year. So maybe I'll stop here, Angelina, with the question of, has the culture in mining evolved?
Okay, so before I go to the Respect report, I just wanted to react a little bit to Patricia's comments on women in mining Brazil in the 5 years. Because I feel like, you know, the success in Brazil is something that I can celebrate as well, given the genesis of some of the work that happened in Brazil. And more than 10 years ago, I was on the board of Women in Mining Canada and met Jamili and talked about some of the work that we had done in Canada, from which we jumped off the work in Brazil. So when you talk about culture evolving, the fact that these conversations are happening and the progress that we have been able to tangibly measure has happened is a success story. That being said, things are better, but not good. As I look forward to PDAC next week, and hopefully I'll catch up with some of you there, I'm thinking about the WIM celebration where we highlight our trailblazers. I think about our responsibility as women in this industry, as leaders in this industry, to continue to focus on this, to make this topic as important as decarb to our businesses, because we know that it is, and to continue to showcase and amplify the women around us, because the work is not done. So, okay, 30 years later, let's talk about the Respect report. So being a leader at Rio Tinto too, my reaction to the report was, I mean, not surprised, having worked in a mine, having worked at camps, having slept in exploration camps, this is the reality. I think there was a lot of noise around celebration of actually getting the report out, and I think that's important. But the key pieces are actually in the report. The 26 recommendations that came out of the 2022 report have largely been addressed within our organization. There is a huge commitment at Rio to change our culture, and that's hard work. And I think that's the piece that we need to acknowledge. Safety is our priority, our first priority above everything else. So that's the physical safety, but also our mental safety, as safekeeping, if you will. And how do we do that with our workforce? And that's building trust and respect. So this is going to be a multi-year journey. When I read the report that came out, or the review that came out in November 2024, it was a lot of the same, right? And I think that that's a reflection of the fact that this is a multi-year journey. I love the fact that we did a review. I hope we continue to put out these reports. There are some new recommendations that came out of it. I feel like if we're going to make change, you have to be in the storm, right? So I can't just be outside commenting on Rio Tinto's report and, oh my goodness, what a lot of work they have to do. But being within the organization myself, having a voice at the table, having lived through some of these exact experiences through my 30 years in the mining world, allows me to help concretely bring change. And so it's not easy. It's mostly ugly, but this is our opportunity now.
Perfect. Thank you. And yeah, when I get the question around why mining, I feel like I've heard this from a few of you as well on establishing that changes happen from different fronts and different layers, but changes can really happen when you're within. So I think the choice to be part of organizations to to be part of not only the conversation, but the actual doing. It's some of the choices that all of us here are making, and I think they're very important choices. And maybe Camila, we started this call with Peter saying things about the commitments or the walking backwards on the commitments to inclusion. I'll leave this with you. Like, how are you seeing the commitments to inclusion, to DNI as a whole, and in your views, what's working, what still needs to be changed on this front?
Okay, thank you, Jamil. I think that we understand here that mining is 100% connected with DNI, inclusion agenda, cannot be disconnected. And we are investing in diversity policies, still investing in diversity policies a lot. We understand this is crucial not only to create a more inclusive work environment, but also to drive innovation and sustainability in the mining sector, right? This is part of sustainability. Um, we are also committed to create an environment where all employees, regardless of gender, race, or origin, they can effectively contribute to this agenda. We want them contributing to that, right? We have set our targets in 2019, where we had 13% only of women in our workforce, and we target to double it by 2025. We have reached that target last year, but we are not leaving that as target reached and now we are ready. No, we are still committed on having our targets and to include this woman in our workforce. And also we have set a target in 2021 in Black people at leadership, where we want to increase the share of Black individuals in the leadership roles in Brazil to 40% by 2026. Okay, so this is our public commitments right now. We have already more 8,000 women in our teams. So this is the amount that joined us due to our targets. And to normalize their presence in the roles that were previously seen as exclusively for males, like mechanics, operators, welders, electricians. This is really, it's our target to normalize it, right? In 2019, less than 1/3 of the women held operational positions here in Vale. Currently, more than half of them occupy those positions. We are completely committed with those targets, and the results, they reflect our intentionality in building a fair company. As I talked in the beginning, we are talking about respect. We are talking about talent-oriented also company, right? Because DNI is about talent-oriented company as well. And we want to offer opportunity for all people. That represents our society, which is just normal. I don't think what is not normal about it, right? And so we want to go beyond those goals. The goals are just the first step for that. But it is a challenge, right? It is what needs to be done, but it is still a challenge. It's necessary to overcome historical barriers or beliefs and biases to demonstrate that yes, women also have the interest and ability to occupy roles that are still mostly held by men. I want to bring here an example. This week I was visiting one of our operations that is led by a woman. She's the director of the operation. And because she's a woman, she has 51% of her team being women. So, and she has the best safety rates. She has reached last year all her projects under the budget and on time. And so she has all the good outcomes with a team of 51% women in operations. So this is the numbers and the outcomes talk by themselves. I don't have to convince no one that a diverse team is more productive and beneficial for the company. Well, as we advance in our diversity goals, the future challenges for the mining industry remain, as I said, right? Retain those diverse talent is a critical issue. We are talking here with many different mining companies, and we know how we are struggling among ourselves to keep these talents with us and to really have the inclusion also of local community, especially in mining regions. This must be a priority. How do we include those people that are living right by our operations and ensuring that economic and social benefits is widely distributed, right? So, well, we want to continue to cultivate an inclusive environment that values each individual and their unique contributions. So, and to promote this culture of mutual respect and collaboration. So respect is the key word here. Okay, well, this is it, Jamil.
Thank you, Camila. And those numbers are impressive. And again, it's about respect. It's about keeping these people part of our organization. So again, congrats on reaching some of these results, and thanks for sharing the storyline. Like, I feel like we could all share different storylines here of leaders who make a difference. And again, thank you. Maybe don't share her name because we're all going to be poaching, but but no, very, very good to hear that. And I think just transitioning to one of the questions from the people who are participating with us here, Alexandra, she mentions that we talked about Brazil's leadership giving their hosting of COP30, emphasizing the Amazon, the major shifts in the United States and federal level, going the opposite direction. So independent of these trends, would you say that the drivers that maintain our sustainability and diversity efforts are now coming from where? I think that's the question. Is that from shareholders and investors? Is that from the public? Government? Like, where do we believe that the force that's moving us towards maintaining this road towards sustainability is coming from? So Camila, I have you in the screen, so maybe I'll start with you.
Okay, I think society as a whole, this is all society. I think that the voice of society today is it's really loud, and yeah, I think that that's what drives us, and then shareholders, investors, they are just going to listen to the society and
Yeah.
do what is needed. Yeah.
And I love Peter's comment here that's coming from you in industry, which is true. Like, we are part of society and we want to see a better mining. So we are all pushing this agenda, right? Like, I think it's coming from all of us. Thanks, Peter. And you can come back as well. We like seeing your face.
And we have another point that's I think that's very important to discuss about it. We have a problem to face for our future workforce. Then you need inclusion and diversity because we need new people in the mining sector. We have a lot of projects restarting with the energy transition. Then that's the way to be up in the sector, the economy.
Yeah.
Maybe if I could add,
Okay,
just
Angelina.
when it comes to like what are the drivers, I know that there's a lot of noise and the media is very loud on a number of these topics. But I attended a seminar here in Montreal, and one of our most prominent business leaders pointed out very correctly, look at the signals, right? We're hearing a lot of noise, but the signals say investment is going into infrastructure to promote green energy. The signals are driving us to understand that we need to mitigate against climate risk. So this is real. The money is flowing in that direction, and that's very hard to stop despite whatever the news is saying. So that's the driver. It's happening. The momentum is there, and we need to keep it going.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'm going to keep it there for the questions from the public because I can see here it's 2:55 already. And I definitely want to give the opportunity for final thoughts, including you, Peter, of course. But first, I just want to say thank you very much. Thanks for everybody who joined us and participated here today. Thanks for each one of you, Patricia, Camila, Angelina, Peter, Khalil, for helped us put this together. Always great to hear from each one of you. As Camila said, this is the start, and we're definitely going to find new ways to collaborate and continue to push this industry forward. And I think a lot of the examples given here today, it's a showcase of that. We will be together at PDAC, so tons of events happening. BCCC has a full agenda together with AGEMBI, together with some of the Brazilian organizations that comes to PDAC. We will have a panel with Vale, Rio Tinto as well on the Tuesday event from BCCC. So Khalil has put on the link, the QR code and our website. So please go check it out. But thank you again for being here and for participating with us. So maybe I'll start with you, Angelina, you're on my screen. So any final thoughts or comments?
I think these are tough conversations to have, so it's so important to have them. So it was my pleasure to be here today to talk also just from my personal experience, but also to represent Rio Tinto and what we're trying to do to make real change. Maybe I'll leave with just the fact that I'm hopeful despite it all. I really feel like we're at the right time and I'm in the right place to affect real change. So I'm hopeful. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia?
What I want to say that I'm Patricia, believe in this sector. I want to work hard. I'm working in Hexagon, discussing about new technologies, how to be this new sector more responsible and sustainable. And I think that together we can change this. And again, we have opportunities to do this different. We have new projects that we can call new people and diversity people to work together. That's it.
Thank you. Camila?
I think we've heard here today powerful voices, right? And sharing their insights. And well, this conversation isn't about where we are, but where we are going. So this is very important to have the commitment of everyone. The women here are really helping to transform this industry and to challenge what was considered normal. So this is really important. And regarding COP, let's build this momentum and carry this energy forward. And well, thank you for all of you for your commitment, your courage, and sharing your vision. And the future is ours to shape.
I love that. Thank you. And I just want to recognize one more person before I give the word to Peter. Andrea Habitin, you're the connector that makes things happen a lot of time. I know you're listening to us. Thank you for always putting us in a room, making the connections, make things happen. So we appreciate and love you. Peter.
Wow, Jamili, thank you so much. Patricia, Camila, Angelina, that just, wow, impressive. I want to comment on a couple of things. First of all, you held the audience. Nobody left. Everybody stayed. It actually grew while you were talking. So, kudos to you. Lucky us, to have you. The other thing is, I have seen firsthand people running over trying to talk to you in meetings. Patricia, I saw a lineup to talk to you. And it was quite funny because I had people say, "Can you introduce me to her?" And I said, "For God's sake, go talk to her. She's right there. You don't need me standing in the middle." You folks are a wonderful draw because you are a fine example of change from the inside. Okay? As you know, we hear the news, we hear all these stories. The stories blow over and the next news cycle comes. But the fact is, real change is long term and it's from the inside. And so it is people like you, leaders like you, who are making that change. And we are all very, very grateful. Mining isn't going away. We're all with our cell phones. We all have our belts. It is, maybe it's a necessary evil, but every year there are ways to make it better and better. And leading that change is you folks. Okay, so thank you. Thank you all. I'm very grateful. Grateful to learn from you, grateful to have you here. And on behalf of the BCCC, I thank you all. Jamili, thank you so much for organizing this, and Khalil. And everybody, please remember that we have been around for over 50 years, and we are making connections between Canada and Brazil. And we are more than happy to welcome new members to keep the dialogues open and to effect change for the better. So thank you all, and get home safely if you're in a snowy place. Okay. Take care. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye,
you.
everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Peter. Thank you, Angelina, Patricia, Jamil.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.